Hi, my name is Cindy Lamb, and I'm the chairperson of the Social Committee. I have a committee of 14 people, and we'd like to welcome you to our first virtual New Owners Orientation. We started this orientation about 3 or 4 years ago because we felt that when you purchased your property or were building a home, you had so many different questions. Why we did this was we wanted to be able to try to answer some of these questions and also give you an opportunity to meet some of the other new neighbors that are moving into the neighborhood. Thank you.
My name is Christine Heikkinen. I'm a 7-year Vintage Oaks resident. I'm also one of the resident board of directors. Welcome to our first virtual New Owners Orientation. This is our agenda for the afternoon. I'll start out introducing you to the team that's going to make this event possible. I will provide you with a brief description of the Property Owners Association and its structure. We'll touch on the building process and what it's like moving into Vintage Oaks. I'll identify our resident committees and discuss how valuable they are to our POA. And in the end, we'll make sure that you walk away with the resources you need to make your transition here a good one. And while I won't be taking any live questions, I will provide you with a link to submit those questions so we can answer them for you. The orientation team is made up of the Social Committee Chairman, the 3 resident board of directors, Don Wagner, Craig Ducote, and myself, and the ARB representative, Tate Johnson, and our local sheriff, BJ Voigt. The objective of this afternoon's presentation is to give you an overview of this awesome community, everything it has to offer, and the information that will make your transition and building process a pleasant one. We also want to make sure you walk away with all the information you need about the community and at least where to go to find it. First, I'm going to talk a little bit about the Vintage Oaks Property Owners Association structure. South Star Communities is the developer here and the declarant. That means they're in charge of the community and they run all operations of the POA. The declarant is also the POA president. South Star, the declarant, will be here until they're done developing or until there is no more land to buy, and at that point, they will transfer the control of the POA over to the property owners. They're currently planning a 2023 departure time frame for this action. The POA Board of Directors is made up of 7 directors. Currently 4 are South Star employees and 3 are resident owner volunteers. The board meets monthly to review all matters regarding the association, to include the budget finance issues, governance, operations, legal matters, new capital projects, etc. All board meeting minutes are published on the owner's website, so you can access those at any time. And we also hold quarterly open board meetings where residents can come in and see how they're run and what's happening live. There are 5 committees that report directly to the POA. The Budget and Finance Committee, Covenants and Guidelines, the Facilities Committee and Social Committee, and Long Range Strategic Planning Committee. I'll discuss each of them a little bit more later in the presentation. The Architectural Review Board works closely with the POA and our property management team. Mr. Tate Johnson is our ARB rep. He has a ton of experience with all aspects of building here in Vintage Oaks. He works closely with the board and the neighborhood company. I'm going to have Tate come up in a few minutes to discuss several building and ARB related issues, and that's the area that most new owners have the most questions about. And last but certainly not least is our property management team, the neighborhood company, or TNC. They have been here for almost 5 years now and do an incredible job maintaining this premier community, handling all day-to-day activities, operations, facility maintenance, and management, budget and financial management. They are the group you'll be dealing with on a regular basis for everything from pool fitness access cards to gate entry access, assessments, fines, violations, facility concerns, to questions about upcoming events or locations of the POA bylaws. So this slide shows our board of directors. Thad Rutherford from South Star is the president of the board. Vice president is Don Wagner, who's a resident owner. Secretary is Jim Vodder, also a South Star employee. The other board members are Lundy Crabb from South Star, Terry Ramirez from South Star, Craig Ducote, a resident owner, and myself as a resident owner. This is a picture of the Vintage Oaks master plan. There are currently over 2,700 platted lots on nearly 4,000 acres, making this one of the largest master plan communities in the area. The Property Management Office and South Star offices are located at the entrance of the neighborhood in Vintage Way. We have an incredible amenity center with Olympic-sized pool, kiddie pool, playground, and lazy river. This is a place to be in the summertime with lots of social events also being held here throughout the year. Our fitness center offers state-of-the-art fitness equipment, a lap pool, weekly group fitness classes, sauna, and locker rooms. We have a brand new amenity on the east side of the community at Bear Creek that boasts an awesome turf volleyball court and a new pool facility. The neighborhood also has miles and miles of beautiful walking trails accessible throughout the community. The addition of the brand new fire station right on the edge of our community is very much welcomed. It's going to yield us big savings to all the homeowners for insurance costs. It's expected to be operational in October of this year. Vintage Oaks has a large population of active and retired military and has an incredible Veterans Association that's very active in the community. We have a Veterans Park that they help maintain and a playground in this beautiful, spacious area as well. Vintage Oaks is situated in one of the fastest growing cities in the nation. It's one of the most coveted communities in New Braunfels. Vintage Oaks is comprised of over 4,000 acres, and at complete build-out, there will be approximately 2,700 homes. Today, 2,200 lots have been sold, so that represents about 85% of total lot sales. The owner's website is going to be a favorite site for you all to visit. It's located at vintageoaksowners.com. It contains the governing documents that will be helpful to you as you transition here at Vintage Oaks. It contains the bylaws, which outline what the Property Owners Association can do and how it must be done. It provides the rules and procedures for things like board meetings and board elections, neighborhood restrictions. The CC&Rs are located there, and they'll give you all the rules that we all must abide by when living here in Vintage Oaks, with the goals of protecting and preserving and enhancing the property value in this community. You'll find the design guidelines as outlined by the ARB here, showing our vision of this community. All of our monthly board meetings are published here as well. And you'll always find an updated social calendar located here for those who are anxious to get involved with the community. And again, the fax chat forum is also located here on this website, and that's where you're going to go to ask questions as you go through this presentation. I'm going to ask Tate Johnson to come up and speak to you about the Architectural Review Board and all the nuances involved in building and enhancing your property. He's the resident expert, and he has a wealth of knowledge to provide you. Jot down your questions and ask him via the chat forum on the owner's site, and we promise to get back with you as soon as possible.
All right, my name's Tate Johnson. I run the Architectural Review Board for Vintage Oaks, along with a few other things. If you're sitting out there or watching this, you probably are a new homeowner, new property owner, looking to build a home, looking to build some supplemental item at your property. When you moved in, you got handled about 2,500 sheets of paper that you could either read or listen to this orientation and then come ask questions. Questions are free. Like I say, we're located down at the front of Vintage Way at 118 Vintage Way, our office down there. I strongly encourage anyone that's new here, come by, sit down, have a cup of coffee, and let me answer your questions before jumping into something that may be over your head. Like I said, we are the ARB. I'll call it the ARB. It's run by myself and two architects. We do all the new home constructions. We started back in 12 when South Star came on board. And since then, like I said, we have about 1,500 homes on the ground, which is pretty amazing. I'll show you a slide in a little bit of the growth. Our other part of our job is supplemental construction. So if you're building a pool, a fence, any type of exterior improvement, it needs to come through the ARB process. The reason why Vintage Oaks has held its beauty and just amazing place is we set these things as a baseline and we don't change them. As we review them about every 4 years, there may be some new modifications we look at, but what you got now is what we had when we moved back here 8 years ago. So it's consistent, it's enforced, and it's very important to keep what we have in longevity. So the bottom line on the ARB, if you're doing an improvement, it must be approved by the ARB, any external improvement. And another big catch that people get themselves into, they'll look next door and go, I really like Bob's item he built. Well, Bob may have built under another set of design guidelines that was approved back then. We need to make sure you are looking at the current set of guidelines, the stuff we're operating off of. And like Vintage Oaks, every lot is significantly different. That's what makes it so neat. The topography, there are some variances based on topography and what you can do on your lot, but we'll help you decide what you can or cannot do. So very important, go through the ARB to get things approved. You're probably sitting there also going, God, there's 50, 60 builders who do I pick? I don't want to get in the business of recommending builders. We have a bunch of resources, whether it's the Nextdoor app, whether it's the community, whether it's New Braunfels Builders Association. You get to pick your builder. I just get to help you maintain the guidelines and meet the standards. As mentioned, about 46 different custom builders within Vintage Oaks. We have about 158 construction sites, which keeps it very busy. And on any day, I have about 1,100 contractors running around Vintage Oaks. We have construction hours from 7 a.m. to sundown, 7 days a week, and if they can't work on holidays, but it's a very, very busy place. We do pour slabs very early because of the heat in Texas. People will call me all the time and go, hey, Tate, they're building at 5 a.m. Well, we're pouring that slab early so it can cure normally up through 10, 11 o'clock and it won't crack. So early slab pours help us as residents maintain the integrity of our homes. What you'll see up behind me also is a slide. It's a growth slide. And if you look on there, 1 August 2020, it's about 1,500 homes on the ground. If you talk to Comal County, that 1,500 homes wasn't supposed to hit till 2030. So when people talk about growth, that's the amount that's coming into Comal County. And you can imagine that growth. We're outpacing the electric companies, we're outpacing the logistics, we're outpacing our EMS, hence the new fire station, schools. So we're just growing really, really fast. And that group of resident volunteers is helping out extremely to keep Vintage Oaks to the standards that we want. Let's get into a little bit about landscaping. When we first moved here, you couldn't have more than 20% rock in your yard. We changed that pretty quickly because our water resource is Canyon Lake water. And you'll come to learn that water comes at a huge cost out here. It's very expensive. It's a commodity. And we try to zero-scape for a couple of reasons: save water, and also for the native wildlife, not to eat it. But we have a ton of water. What we don't have is a capacity to store it. Canyon Lake is in the process of capital improvements on our tanks. Those will get larger. Like I said, we have plenty of water, but we can't refill them fast enough to keep the water pressure where it needs to be. So you'll see some workings with Canyon Lake water and some new improvements coming in the future. But like I said, plenty of water, but we need to use it wisely. And so we limit the size of your turf yards, just for you to realize water's expensive. It takes a lot of water to water certain grasses. There's a couple of things that are prohibited. St. Augustine grass is prohibited in Vintage Oaks because it is very invasive and it eats a lot of water. And the other thing are Texas red oaks. That spreads oak wilt. So there's a few issues with landscaping that I'd love to hear before you go out and spend $60,000, $70,000 on a landscape plan. Please come by the office and I'll give you the particulars of what works inside Vintage Oaks. As I said, this next slide, you'll see a tank. It's Canyon Lake water. That's our only water source. I get a lot of questions of, hey, Tate, can I dig a well? Maybe, maybe not. An acre site really doesn't give you the distance from your aerobic septic to dig a hole in the ground for a well. If you have possibly 2 acres, then you got to go over the Corps of Engineers, Comal County Engineers Office, and ask if you're above the Edwards Aquifer where you can't penetrate. So it depends is what's my answer. You can dig a $30,000, $40,000 well and just get mud. But there's some other particulars that I'd love to answer if you ever have thoughts about doing that. We are in a drought region. We're always under water restrictions. So just be mindful when you put in landscape of how much grass and how much water you're going to be using. It's not uncommon to have 5,000 square feet of grass and pay $300 to $400 a month in a water bill. What outnumbers the contractors in Vintage Oaks is our wildlife. I work hand in hand with the game warden. We have amazing wildlife. We have a lot of deer. We even have elk in the neighborhood. We have feral hogs. We have 2 mountain lions, several packs of coyotes, and of course your standard reptiles in terms of rattlesnakes, copperheads, and coral snakes. There's some preventative measures I'll show you in the last slide, but just be aware we live amongst the wildlife, that even though we've moved in 1,500 families, the wildlife hasn't left. So there are ways that we can live kind of friendly with the wildlife, and hopefully I can point some of those things out. Next little video is a hog video that's actually in my front yard. The feral hogs have been in Texas many, many years. They come and go. We'll never get rid of them. We've trapped them. We've had hunters come in. We put corral traps up, but they're just have too many litters that we just can't keep up with them. So I'll show you some mitigating issues to help you retain the assets and keep your property safe from hogs. It's not 100%, but it hopefully reduce. The next little movie clip you'll see up here is wild turkeys. We have a ton of wild turkeys, and they usually run in through January, and you'll see their little cluckers. But as this wildlife moves in and moves out, there is a chain, and it's a calendar chain that the game warden and I came up with. As you move through the slides, you'll see some more wildlife. You'll see bugs you probably have never seen, scorpions, tarantulas, walking sticks, not to mention your armadillos, your turkey vultures, a variety of different species that you're probably going to come down to the office and go, hey, can you get this thing out of my garage? And I'll help you get it out of your garage, but not by myself. We'll get into the Vintage Oaks Wildlife Timeline. In January, we have all the turkeys that come into Vintage Oaks. They just migrate in here. And with the turkeys, they lay their hatchlings, and now we got little turkeys. The animals that pick up on the little turkeys are the feral hogs. They start rolling in March and April, and then the deer drop their fawns, and that's one of the appetites of the feral hogs. Then we get into snake season, June, July, and August, and then September is where we are now, and the hogs are back. And they're eating the acorns and any vegetation and anything left on the ground. And we get into October, we'll get into I call our traffic speed bumps. That's gonna be the deer. They are in rut in October, so they run crazy everywhere throughout Vintage Oaks, and not many cars hit the deer, but a lot of deer hit the cars. So we do have a very good platform of wildlife, and just how you live and associate with that wildlife and help maintain the beauty of your home without it getting eaten up is one of my major goals there in the office. The last slide I got on this is there's absolutely no hunting in Vintage Oaks. No kinetic options whatsoever. No bow hunting, no pellet gun hunting, no rifle hunting. Inside of Vintage Oaks, you'll notice we live on almost a rock, and the kinetics of a bullet ricocheting and injuring not only the animal, but maybe a resident is high. So absolutely no hunting. A lot of people say, hey, the hogs are tearing up my yard, what do I do? Well, we do authorize small electric fences in the front yard, and I need to go over each one when we get there. There's motion activated lights, there's motion activated sprinklers, there's grub X you can put down, there's pig repellents, there's deer off, there's ultrasound repellers. Most effective really is the hog fencing, the electric hog fencing, and you'll see about 24 of them throughout here. And the pigs, if they find your home, they're gonna stay on your home for a while. So I'd like to talk to you more. If you think you're gonna have a hog issue, and if you're gonna put something down, maybe I can give you some advice on, hey, that's probably not deer tolerant enough, or that's really what the hog's like. I'd want to be able to pitch that to you before you spend all that money on something you don't need. When we talk about all this movement and hunters and non-hunters and traffic and speeding, I'd like to introduce to you BJ Voigt. He's our local sheriff deputy. He's going to come up here next and tell you the things he sees about our neighborhood and about safety.
My name is Deputy Voigt with Comal County Sheriff's Office. I'm here to speak to you in reference to some security issues and other details. I am a resident here in Vintage Oaks. I've been here 12 years. I'm also a police officer with Comal County. First, I'd like to start off with security. There's plenty of opportunity for someone to come through our neighborhood, whether it be contractors or someone from another community. I would like to start by saying lock your cars if you leave them outside the garage. Speaking of the garage, if your garage is not being utilized, you're not going in and out of the door of the garage, you're in bed, and the garage door is open, there's another opportunity for them to come in and take what they want, whether it be inside your unsecured car in the garage or your lawn equipment. Talk about a little bit about traffic control here in Vintage Oaks. I have a big issue with people parking on the roadways, whether they're parking there to visit, parking there to work, parking on the roadways because they don't have any room in their driveway, but most of the time it's not the case. Yes, contractors do park in the road, and if I see them, I will have them move. But homeowners are parking on the roadway for one reason or another. It's just obstructing the flow of traffic, so please don't do that. Speeding is a big issue. The speed limit here in Vintage Oaks is 30. So if you're going 35, you're speeding. Please watch out for people when you're driving. There's a lot of our community that walk, jog, ride bicycles, even small children out there. So I see a lot of that, so be careful with that. School bus stops. Be careful with your school bus stops. When the red lights are flashing on the school bus, you have to stop. It's the law. I'd like to talk a little bit about golf carts and utility vehicles. We are allowed to have golf carts in master plan communities. You can register them. It's not required. You have to have a driver's license to operate it and a slow moving vehicle sign, it's an orange triangle on the rear of your vehicle. If you drive it at night, you must have all the lights that a normal vehicle will have on it. The Rangers utility vehicles, they are required to be licensed. The driver operator has to have a driver's license as well. If you're operating at night, it has to have headlights, tail lamps, turn signals. No light bars. You cannot have light bars on your golf cart, can't have light bars on your utility vehicles. Four-wheelers, scooters, pocket bikes, things of that nature are not allowed on the roadway. Please don't be complacent. Together we can make this a safe community.
I'd like to welcome you to Vintage Oaks. Whether you're just buying your lot or whether you've just moved into your home, you've moved into the best neighborhood you will find anywhere around. One, for the beauty, and two, for the fun activities that we try to provide you. I've lived here 7.5 years. I've been affiliated with the social committee 6 years. The goal of our committee is to provide activities for different groups. Some of our activities are strictly adults, some of our activities are for children, and some activities are families. We try to schedule an event every month. Of course, with COVID hitting it this year, we were able to get about 4 events in before we had to cancel the rest of the year. We had a full schedule, and we hope to be able to pick up on these events next year. Some of our events that we provide, we have an adult social once a month. We go from January to May, and then we stop for the summer, and then we'll pick back up in September and go through November. We've had poker night. We plan on doing that again. We try to add new activities each year. This past year, we had an adults-only Valentine's dinner. It was a huge success. We're also planning a big luau. We'll do fireworks. We have National Night Out every year in October. We do Trunk or Treat, which is a big hit with the children and families. And we do a children's Christmas party. Anytime you're looking to see what kind of events are going on, we usually advertise on Nextdoor. We advertise through the newsletter, and if you look at the neighborhood calendar, you'll see our different events. We hope you come join us on these events. You can come to as many as you want. It's a great way to meet your neighbors and make new friends. Hope to see you there.
The community would not be what it is without the help of these awesome volunteer committee members. We have over 60 volunteers who support the POA, and these folks aren't getting paid, but they take such personal interest in the care and feeding of the community and are all invested in keeping this first-class community that it is. So the first one is the Budget and Finance Committee. It's comprised of 6 resident volunteers. They provide input on budgetary matters for the association. They prepare the annual budget and the 3-year projections for the board. They monitor monthly financial statements and coordinate on annual audit and tax returns. The C&G Committee is one of the largest committees with 19 volunteers. They advise the board on all issues relating to covenants enforcement in Vintage Oaks. The group performs inspections to ensure that we're all keeping our properties and homes in compliance, and at the end, our property values up. The Social Committee, made up of 14 resident members who work extremely hard to bring the community together throughout the year. They plan, promote, and coordinate a variety of events and activities throughout the year to connect property owners of all ages and interest. And the Long Range Strategic Planning Committee was formed last year to start planning for the departure of the declarant and the stand-up of the new POA structure. They're looking at the bylaws and determining what changes will be made and impacts to us. This slide shows the allocation of the 2020 annual assessments. The Budget Committee puts this together to show how our assessments are actually allocated. You won't find a community like Vintage Oaks with an annual assessment of only $675. We're very fortunate, especially given all the incredible amenities that we have. You'll see the majority of our assessment goes to the amenities and facilities that we're enjoying here. This slide depicts the dollar amount for 2019 of how these numbers are actually spent. Over $200,000 a year goes into our reserve account, over $200,000 for capital expenditures, and then over $200,000 a year for landscaping across the entire community. The C&G Committee Compliance Report is here as an example. It's the kind of work that our Covenants and Guideline Committee is involved in, and it's a good snapshot of the types of violations that they are finding at any given time. Landscaping and rubbish are probably the top culprits, but even those numbers are small in comparison to the over 1,500 homes that are built. We do a really good job keeping the properties in great shape and our property values even better. And these are the many amenities that the Facilities Committee oversees and advocates for. They also do a periodic survey to get the pulse and desires of the community. Most recently, they recommended and got approval for a new turf volleyball court, backboards for the tennis courts, and are getting the baseball field in shape for future Little League games. This slide shows a list of all the owner resources that are always available to you. T&C is our property management company and can answer any questions or lead you to the right place to find it. They're very helpful. They'll put out email updates and monthly POA newsletters, and they ensure the community is kept up to date on everything. The owner's website, as I mentioned earlier, is your one-stop shop for everything. BOD minutes, the CC&Rs, our design guidelines, budget and financial statements, social calendars, etc. You can contact the board of directors and committee directors as well for anything that you may need. And we also hold annual and mid-year town hall meetings where the residents are invited to attend, and quarterly open board meetings also open to the community. These are a great opportunity to see firsthand how business is run and what we're involved in. And last but not least is Nextdoor. Nextdoor can be a great source of entertainment, but it's also a great source of information for so many service-related things like doctor recommendations, restaurants, landscapers, and spas, missing animals, events, etc. They're always taking care of runaway animals, and it's the first place people go to look if they're missing theirs.